It's election day in Taiwan. The polls are closed and the results are coming in. We have reporters at the main campaign headquarters for the Taipei mayor candidates. Liao is here to bring you the latest on the vote count.
I'll be following races in Taiwan's 6 biggest cities, bringing results as we get them.
And Chen is in the reaction room with our analysts.
We're going to get their response to this year's elections.
This is Decision 2022. I'm Andrew Ryan, coming to you from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. We begin tonight with this map of Taiwan. Now, there are thousands of seats up for grabs all across the country, but we're going to focus on the nation's 6 biggest cities. They include everything from Taipei, where we are in northern Taiwan, the capital, all the way down to Kaohsiung at the southern tip of the island. They're known as the 6 special municipalities. But before we get to the results, here's a look at what's on the ballots today.
They're called the 9-in-1 elections. That means voters can choose who they want to represent in 9 different local elections. That's more than 11,000 seats up for grabs. Everything from neighborhood chiefs all the way to the heads of Taiwan's 22 cities and counties. There are even positions specifically for indigenous people. In fact, the only offices not on the ballot are the president and lawmakers. This year, all eyes are on the race for Taipei mayor. It's hotly contested, and many see it as a stepping stone to the presidency. In fact, 3 of Taiwan's last 4 presidents were Taipei mayor before taking the top office in the nation. Now, it's not just candidates that are on the ballot this year. There's also a special referendum on whether to lower the voting age from 20 down to 18. Taiwan's legislature has already approved the move, but it needs to pass a referendum because it would change Taiwan's constitution. There's a high bar for it to pass, though. It still needs the support of at least half of Taiwan's eligible voters. That's nearly 9.7 million people. At first glance, Taiwan's 9-in-1 elections may look like it's only a local affair, but many people see it as a referendum on the current administration, led by President Tsai Ing-wen, with implications for the next election in 2024. Liao and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Joining me now in the studio is Liao, our map man this evening, who's going to be sharing with us results. Did you vote today?
I did vote today, Andrew, and it's always a fascinating experience when you do vote. Like our video just said, it's not just mayors that are on the ballot, you also have city councilors. And let me tell you something, the city councilors, there's about 25 people running for city councilor in my area, so the ballot was like that long.
Did it take you a little bit longer in the ballot box because of that?
It took me a while to find who I needed to vote for.
Well, I see you are dressed in purple tonight. I'm dressed in purple as well. We're trying to stay away from the main colors of the 2 biggest parties. But on our map today, I see that there's a lot of different colors other than purple.
That's right. So we have different colors, and this map is going to be periodically updated with who's in the lead or whoever's won in each of the 22 major cities and counties in Taiwan. But like you said, there's 2 main parties in Taiwan. The colors that you want to pay attention to are probably blue and green. Now, green is the color of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, and then you also have blue, which is the color of Kuomintang. But if you look over here, Hsinchu City is teal. Now, that is the Taiwan People's Party, Taiwan's biggest third party, and that is the head of that party is Ko Wen-je, the incumbent mayor of Taipei City. Then we also have white here, which there's an independent candidate who's ahead in Miaoli. And you'll notice a little black spot down here, that's Jiayi City. And of course, Jiayi City had their election delayed for their mayor because one of the candidates actually unfortunately passed away.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, looking at this map here, it looks like a pretty decisive split between northern and southern Taiwan, blue and green. Do we have some results from Taipei we can announce?
Let's take a look at some of the results that we have right here, right now. So, in the lead is the candidate from the opposition Kuomintang, Jiang Wan-an. Now, this isn't that much of a surprise because going into the election, he was actually polling ahead. I think he's been polling ahead for most of this election cycle. And then in second place, we have from the DPP, the ruling DPP, Chen Shizong, former health minister Chen Shizong, and he's become a very popular face in Taiwan because he oversaw the COVID-19 pandemic, or a big chunk of it.
Yes, he was the guy that we watched on TV almost every single day for about a year or two. And then in third place, we have the independent candidate, Vivian Huang.
That's right. And though she is independent, she does have very close ties to the Taiwan People's Party. She did serve as a deputy mayor under incumbent Taipei City Mayor Ko Wen-je. She's in third place with 65,064 votes. Jiang Wenan, he's broken the 100,000 threshold, and Chen Shizong, 84,000 votes. But I should say that these numbers are from the Central Election Commission. They're a little slower than some of the other local media reports,
yes,
but
and
they
are
precise.
I can actually tell you right now the local media are reporting that Jiang has about 380,000 votes. Chen Shizong has about 290,000 votes, so Jiang is still in the lead in Taipei with Vivian Huang at 240,000 votes, so a distant third. But we are going to play it safe. We're going to give you the numbers, the official numbers from the Central Election Commission tonight.
That's right. Andrew, that's all I got for you for now, but we're going to be keeping an eye on all these races, giving you the updates that you're going to need to know for this election.
That's right. We're going to go now to Betty Chen, who is sitting in the reaction room with some analysts who can offer insight into today's elections. Betty, I see you're also wearing purple there. Did you vote today?
Yes, I went to the voting booth in the morning. I'm also wearing purple, and sitting next to me are two experts sharing with us their knowledge and insights for this local election. Please allow me to introduce Dr. Liao Yizhong, Prospect Foundation President and also former Special Assistant at the Taiwan Representative Office in Japan. Also, we have Professor Alexander Huang, Associate Professor of the Graduate Institute of International Affairs and Strategic Studies of Tamkang University, former Deputy Minister of the Taiwan Mainland Affairs Council, and former Political Division Director at the Taiwan Representative Office in the U.S. So, Professor Huang and President Liao, so we have questions for you. Our first question is, in what ways could this local election influence the 2024 presidential election? Please.
I think we will have to wait until we see the ratio of the popular votes, because that's how we redefine the political landscape. And we can imagine that the next legislative election could look like. But we all know this is a local election, this is not a presidential election. So the 2 years from today, the voting behavior may change.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So do you think it's too early to tell, right, for the 2024?
Of course.
So for President Liao, in terms of the China policies, how does the KMT and DPP differ from each other?
Well, in terms of China policy, I think the DPP has a very broad strength on the so-called Taiwan identity and how to preserve the Taiwan sovereignty. And of course, one of the major differences between KMT and DPP is the standing about the 92 consensus. In DPP's view, the 92 consensus already has been changed by Xi Jinping to the extent that there's no way that Taiwan will be able to accept. But for the KMT, at least unofficially, they still claim that the 92 consensus is something that the KMT can use as a bridge in a negotiation or a consultation with China.
So do you think the results of this election reflect the voter sentiment on China policy?
No, I do not think that is the case because the local election, apparently the people are concerned about the bread and water and the what's happening on the neighborhood, like the traffic lights issues, how to deal with the traffic, and also the COVID-19 and all the economy, how to get back to the daily life. Those are the things that people are concerned about. And of course, if you look at the follow the whole process about the election, you see some very strange thing coming out, like the thesis issues, and also some candidate, his father's whereabouts or his father's personal identity, that becomes a focus of the attack. So those are the things that in this election process, it started to occupy the newspaper page, and then the less to do with the policy issues.
Speaking of the interesting phenomenon in the local election, Professor Huang, have you observed any interesting things in this election which is different from the past?
Well, I think it is a little bit unique because I think there are things unexpected and becoming big campaign issues. Just like Professor Liao just said, plagiarism, the quality of governance, or personality issue. I do not see anything that really surprised me. But we do have many female candidates this time. And that's something very, very interesting. I think the woman's power plays a big role this time.
True. So plagiarism and girl power or women's power do play a very important role. Speaking of plagiarism, what do you think of the importance of academic background? Because in Taiwan, people do value education or degrees. Is it overrated? What do you think?
Well, for a long time, I would say 4 or 5 decades, that the traditional families or in our cultural tradition, that people respect scholars or people who had good academic performance. To me, a PhD just like a license to kill or to govern. So a lot of people try to pursue a higher degree as part of the proof of their ability. Yeah.
What about you, President Lai?
I think, I agree with Professor Huang that in Taiwan, it seems that there was a tradition that people would look higher for the people who possess a higher degree in educations. And so that, especially in the political sphere, that when you're in public office, people tended to compare first of all, of course, that is your government performances, but also in terms of your education background.
Interesting. So thank you very much for your summary. So now we can talk about this issue later, but now I would like to give it back to Andrew.
You're watching Decision 2022. We're coming to you live from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. Just a moment ago, you saw some live images from the Jiang Wan'an camp, the KMT candidate camp in Taipei. But now we're going to bring you to the southern city of Kaohsiung, which is currently the 3rd largest city in Taiwan. And Leslie, you have some results for us.
I got some actually pretty big updates for you, Andrew. Let's take a look at the Kaohsiung race really quickly. And the race is going to be mainly between the DPP incumbent Chen Qimai, and you also have his challenger from the Kuomintang, the Ke Zhi'en. Chen Qimai, as far as the Central Election Commission says, Chen Qimai has about 393,000 votes. Ke Zhi'en is trailing behind at 265,000. However, Ke Zhi'en has announced that she is
She has not won.
She has not won. She's actually
conceded that. Yeah?
She's conceded that, and Chen Qimai, that effectively gives Chen Qimai the mayorship of Kaohsiung. So
he's continuing into a 2nd term.
That's right.
And this will be his first full term as mayor of Kaohsiung. He only served for about 2 years in his first term. Very dramatic story there, which we might be able to get to a little bit later on today.
Yeah.
But you have some more results also from Taipei.
Let's go back to Taipei. And we didn't mention this before, but Taipei is kind of the crown jewel of tonight's elections, right? I'm going to be calling it the big piece of pie because that's what I think of when I see crown jewel.
Because you're hungry tonight.
I'm a little bit hungry. There's going to be a lot of food analogies here. Don't you worry about it. In first place is Jiang Wan'an from the KMT. In second, he's got about 146,000 votes. Chen Sizong, former health minister from the DPP, 115,000. Vivian Huang from the independent Vivian Huang, ties to TPP. She has yet to break 100,000 with 88,000 votes. This is the one that we're going to be paying very, very close attention to.
And again, these are the official results from the Central Election Commission. We do have some local media which are reporting these numbers. Jiang Wan'an at over 380,000 votes to Chen Sizong in a close, actually not too close, 2nd place at 290,000 votes. But we are sticking with the official numbers to play it safe. Tonight, we're going to be introducing you to all 3 of these main candidates for Mayor of Taipei. And we're going to start with independent candidate Vivian Huang, who is the only one of the 3 candidates who has actually worked at City Hall. Now, our reporter James Chater has been following her on the campaign trail, and he's been at the campaign headquarters all afternoon, and he sent us this report.
Vanessa Yu is nearly 50 years old. She's come to a rally for Taipei mayor candidate Vivian Huang. It's the first political event she's ever attended. Vanessa is voting for Huang, an independent candidate and 6-term Taipei city councillor. It will be the first time in Vanessa's life she's not voted for Taiwan's opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, whose party colour is blue.
我们家是深蓝的，不管什么，就是爸爸妈妈就说你就是投给国民党，不管谁，你就是投给国民党。可是今年呢，我说服了他们说你就是投黄珊珊。
Huang says she's a safe choice. Since 2019, she's served as the capital's deputy mayor.
目前为止，大概在所有的候选人里面，只有我可以无缝接轨，立刻上工。
Huang wants to tackle Taipei's low birth rate and sky-high rental prices. But more than that, she's hoping to shake up the politics that have shaped Taiwan for decades and offer an alternative to the KMT and DPP, or Democratic Progressive Party, whose colour is green.
如果大家不想要走回头路，就应该要让这个超越蓝绿，还有这个政治文化改变继续下去。
But critics say Huang's ties to current Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je could hold her back. Ke promoted her to deputy mayor in 2019. And this year, he's a prominent figure in her campaign.
Being a vice mayor is not a positive sign for her because of Ko Wen-je, because Ko Wen-je just did very poor on the poll.
But Huang's campaign is choosing to focus on her experience and what they say is her advantage of being independent, not partisan.
很多的事情都是因为蓝的主张，所以绿的反对；绿的主张，蓝的就反对。那这样子的话，事情完全做不成的。我们不要再让这些旧的势力再回到台北市政府里头。伟大市民，齐步到一。亲爱的伟大市民，你们不是蓝的，你们也不是绿的，你们都是自由的。
Analysts say a Huang victory would show the dividing lines in Taiwan's politics are being redrawn.
If she wins, then that is it's a very significant change for the Taiwan's party politics because that shows the third party has the ability to win a major district without cooperation with the big party. That is very big.
Huang would be the first female mayor of Taipei, but she's trying to prove something even bigger, that the old divisions in Taiwan's politics are a thing of the past. Liao Lien, Asnaya Zhou, Rick E, and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Now, Vivian Huang is in a distant third place right now in terms of the vote count. That could dash her hopes for becoming the first female mayor of Taipei. For more on her candidacy, we now go to Betty Chen, who's sitting with our analysts in the reaction room. Betty.
So let's talk about Vivian Huang. And we know that as a female candidate, she's the first viable female candidate in a race, just like what Professor Huang talked about previously. Women power has become a very important topic in this election. What do you think of her performance so far?
I think she, to be balanced, she is a pretty good politician. She got no, negative any report, and she has served 6 terms as city councilwoman, and she worked very hard. I know her personally. Unfortunately, that there are, her background to work with many. From different colors becomes a liability in this election. Personally, I like her a lot, but right now, particularly at this time, even though she is the deputy to the Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People Party, but she runs on the independent ticket. In the Taipei city, that is highly contested between blue and green. It left very, very little room for the third party in terms of, the probability of running or winning.
Speaking of the third party, do you think that the TPP is a viable third party? We see that Ann Gao is doing quite well in Hsinchu. What do you make of that, President Lai?
I personally think that the TPP probably will cease to be a viable party after this election because the party chairman, Ko Wen-je, no longer has the Taipei City resources to beef up and to cultivate and to grow his own party. And even if the Gao Hong'an become the mayor of the Hsinchu, but Hsinchu city is a very tiny city. So basically, I was doubted how much of the resources that the Hsinchu city will be able to cultivate the party itself. So I would not think that the TPP will have as much resources and the viable person to bring this party along. And I also do not think that the Ke Wen-je is the kind of the charismatic person like James Song Chu-yu. He by himself could carry this People First Party for over 20 years and prevent this party from becoming just a tiny bubble. So I would not think that this TPP will be able to go far.
Thank you very much, President Lai. And now let's give it back to Andrew.
All right, up ahead on Decision 2022, we've just gotten word that we're going to be hearing the candidate from the DPP for Taipei Mayor, Chen Shizhong, who's about to speak. First, a commercial break. We'll be back in just a moment. This is Decision 2022. I'm Andrew Ryan coming to you from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei, and things are happening very quickly. We're going to go straight to a live feed from the campaign headquarters of Chen Shizhong, the DPP candidate in Taipei. The ruling party candidate. Of course, you'll remember that Chen Shizhong was formerly the health minister of Taiwan, who guided the country through the pandemic. And we can see there are people up on stage right now who are talking at his campaign headquarters. We've gotten word that he is likely to come out and begin speaking in just a moment. I know that he's a little bit behind in the polls, so it's unclear what he's going to be telling us in his speech. As you can see, the campaign headquarters there is full of people. A lot of people have come out to support Chen. I think we're going to go straight to our results in Taipei, where Leslie Liao is standing by with the map.
That's
Can
right,
you show us
Andrew.
what we've got?
I'm going to show you what we got. And like I said, we're going to show you, I'm not going to show you what we got. I'm going to show you the big piece of pie. Why not?
The big piece of pie.
And the reason why I call it the big piece of pie is because this is the most, this is the biggest stake here in this voting, in this round of voting. People,
Wait, steak as in like beef? Are you still talking about food?
I'm still I told you it's going to be all food analogies all night. Let's take a look at the results right now. You have KMT nominee Jiang Wan-an still ahead. He's broken past 200,000 votes at 222,427. In second place, you have Chen Shizhong, of course, the candidate whose headquarters we just saw. He's from the DPP, former health minister, as you said, 170,890 votes. And then you have Vivian Huang, of course, who we just introduced in the show earlier. She's sitting at 131,896 votes. Still a very early race, Andrew. And like I said, these are the official numbers from the Central Election Commission, Taiwan Central Election Commission. Some local media are reporting different numbers, and because we like to go with the more precise, safe answer.
That's right. That is right. Actually, the local media, what they're reporting looks very similar to what we have there, except for the numbers are larger. Now, we have been introducing all three of these mayoral candidates tonight. We're going to turn now to Chen Shizhong, who is the Democratic Progressive Party's candidate. He rose to fame during the pandemic, hosting the daily press conferences as health minister. Our reporter Louise Watt has been following him on the campaign trail, and she is at Chen's campaign headquarters right now, and she sent us this report.
I'm here inside Chen Shizhong's campaign headquarters, where his supporters have been gathering for hours ahead of the results. Now, I have to say the mood here is cautiously optimistic. I spoke to some of his supporters earlier. Let's hear what some of them had to say.
我觉得他在防疫方面，他真的很认真，而且他的政见，他每一样要做的事情讲得很清楚，不像其他的阵营一直用攻击的态度在选举。然后我觉得，做人那个厚道， 一定会，我至少有80%会当选。
这3年来，部长们跟那个整个团队们大家都辛苦，还有所有医务人员大家都辛苦了，所以要特别来支持部长陈时中部长，我们就尽了我们最大的努力了。所以我特别早上5点从嘉义上来，这样子上来投票。
Chen's got a lot of support here because he used to be Taiwan's health minister in charge of handling the pandemic. And many people put Taiwan's early success at keeping case numbers down as down to him. It also very much boosted his profile. Chen is a household name in Taiwan. He's running for the Democratic Progressive Party, the ruling DPP. Now that could count against him in the capital because Taipei generally votes in the opposition. So from the start, many observers have seen the odds as stacked against Chen. Here's a closer look at some of the other challenges Chen is facing. The most high-profile candidate in Taipei's mayoral election is Chen Shizhong, Taiwan's former health minister. He's standing for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. The country's president has frequently been at his side on the campaign trail.
就是要陈时中，只有陈时中是我们最好的市长。啊，有没有同意？有。
Chen says he wants to resolve traffic congestion in a tech hub district, build more social housing, and give new mothers more financial support. He's also talked about how he wants Taipei to keep pace with world-class cities.
台北是国家的首都，我们要更国际化，所以我要成立国际事务局，要培养具有国际专业的年轻人才。
But his campaign has suffered some awkward turns. One campaign video promising to install electric bidets in all of Taipei's public restrooms got panned for seemingly promoting voyeurism.
我当市长。
Chen has never run for government office before, but the pandemic pushed him into the spotlight. As health minister, he was a familiar and reassuring face on the nation's TV screens, and his popularity soared. But his COVID record may now prove to be his Achilles heel.
再见了，谢谢。
He stepped down as health minister to run for mayor in July, at a time when Taiwan was still dealing with a serious COVID wave. Observers say it's one of his challenges as he seeks votes in Taipei, which traditionally doesn't vote for the DPP but the opposition, known as the Pan-Blue camp.
His reputation is directly tied to perceptions of how Taiwan's performance during COVID-19 was. There are people that view Taiwan as having done very badly, for example, particularly among the Pan-Blue camp. That would be the view that, for example, vaccine purchases were not transparent, or that Taiwan purchased more in terms of price than other countries, or that Taiwan did not do anything and was very late in purchasing vaccines.
Another issue is that Chen's policies aren't so different from those of his main opponents. Jiang Wan-an of the KMT, and Vivian Huang, an independent and former Taipei deputy mayor.
They actually often agree on what are the same issues facing each locality they're running in. For example, an growing elderly population, or that young people don't have enough housing, or they can't afford housing, or transportation, for example. And so I feel it's almost much more about party ID, just which party which candidate belongs to.
If Chen does appeal to enough voters across party lines, a win for the DPP in Taipei would be huge. The party hasn't had a Taipei mayor for 24 years. And a victory for Chen would boost the ruling party ahead of presidential and legislative elections in a little over a year's time. Klein Wong and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
All right, we're going to go straight to the campaign headquarters of the DPP candidate for Taipei Mayor Chen Shizhong, who is now on stage and speaking to his supporters. Let's have a listen.
我希望他好，他治理的越好，就会让台北更好。我也恳请大家和我一样，让我们团结，成为我们热爱的故乡台北的力量。谢谢。 们爱台北的力量，应该要超越政党的分歧。我呼吁我们一起给予蒋万安先生支持，让他未来把台北市治理得越好。面对2022台北市长选举的败选，是我自己努力不够。在这里，我向大家致上最深的歉意，很抱歉，我努力不够。
All right, we are just hearing a concession speech from the DPP candidate for Taipei Mayor Chen Shizhong, saying that he was going to throw his support behind the new mayor-elect, the presumable new mayor-elect Jiang Wan-an from the main opposition Kuomintang or KMT. We're going to go straight to Betty Chen, who is sitting in our reaction room with our analysts for their reaction. Betty.
So we just heard from Chen Shizhong. He conceded that he lost the election and he called upon unity for the people of Taipei to support the mayor-elect, possible mayor-elect Jiang Wan-an. What do you make of the result?
Well, I haven't seen the numbers, but I think as early as this stage, when we know the result, probably there will be a comfortable lead that prove that the KMT candidate has won the election. For KMT is also 8 years away from the City Hall. So it turned Taipei back to the two major parties' campaign this time. And of course, Taipei is a capital city. Many people look at Taipei as the stepstone to the presidency. As reported has just mentioned, that in the past 4 presidents, we have 3 that came from the City Hall of Taipei. So I think Wayne Chang is a young politician. He got many years to go, and we give him a good blessing and hope he can do well in the future.
True. I know this is maybe a bit early to say, but based on the current results we have, it seems that the DPP is not performing as well as expected. So does it mean that President Tsai might have to step down as chairperson of the DPP? President Lai.
I think it is not just about Taipei City race, but also the whole Taiwan race. And the past tradition of the DPP is that for a party chairman or chairwoman lost a major bit of elections, the party chair will have to take responsibility and step down. So that happens during the year 2018, the local elections, and President stepped down at that time. So this time, I think if we really follow the DP traditions, then people would expect that the President Tsai Ing-wen to step down from the DPP chairmanship. But still, we need to know that whether the President Tsai wanted to step down or the other party heavyweights, they would like her to remain as a party chair in order to steer the PPP through the rest of her presidential residencies.
So hypothetically, if President Tsai really steps down as chairperson of the DPP, who is likely to take over and how will that impact the 2024 presidential election? President Lai.
I think right now the people are expecting, should the President Tsai really step down from the DPP chair, and probably this will engineer a new process about how the President Tsai, her remaining leading power within DPP will continue. And people are expecting that the currently Vice President Lai Ching-te could play a much bigger role. People are not saying that the Lai Ching-te will take over the party chairmanship, because should Lai Ching-te wanted to run for the DPP, and it's better that the Lai Ching-te would not assume the party chairmanship. Because if you are running for the, you want to run for the DPP as a president next year, year 2024, then it'll be better for you to steer out of the DPP party chair, the election process, in order to assume the neutrality and get your friends and allies in a position to help you.
Right. So back to Professor Huang. It seems that the Pan Blue camp is doing quite well in these local elections. And how does that tell us more about probably the future of the KMT?
I think the KMT have been defeated badly since 2016. And even with a short surge in 2018, but in the past 6 years, it has been very cloudy, very dark for the party. And so today is probably a victory that needed for KMT for quite some time. And I think there are future challenges, for instance, who can be the presidential candidate, whether the national election and local election can be equivalent, and how our future challenges of national security would be judged by our voters. Those are the issues that the Pan Blue or the KMT should consider.
It is still too early to tell the final results, but let's be patient and we will see what's going to happen next. Back to you, Andrew.
Still to come on Decision 2022, we're going to have results from Taiwan's second most populous city, Taichung, plus an introduction to the presumptive mayor-elect, Jiang Wan-an. Much more to come when our show continues. This is Decision 2022, and we're coming to you live from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. We're going to move on now to the central city of Taichung, which is the nation's second most populous city. And it is also a blue-leaning city. So actually in the last 20 years, we've only had one DPP mayor, one-term mayor. You've got some results from Taichung, Leslie.
That's right, Andrew. We've been talking about Taipei in the north all night. Let's go give some of the other cities and the other places some love, all right? Let's take a look at Taichung. And right here for the DPP, ruling DPP candidate, that's Cai Qi-shang, Deputy Legislative Speaker. And he's up against incumbent Liu Xiuyan of the KMT. Now, you look at Liu Xiuyan, she's got 481,000 votes ahead of Cai Qi-shang's 315,000. A substantial lead right there. And Liu Xiuyan has polled pretty well in Taichung. It's pretty good.
Absolutely. And in fact, some of the local media are calling it for Liu Xiuyan. But I think with those numbers, that's a pretty safe thing to say, that she's going to take this pretty easily, pretty handily.
Actually, give you a personal anecdote. My uncle, he is traditionally DPP, but this time I went back and I asked him, he's like, who you're voting for? He's like, I'm going to go for Liu Xiuyan.
So she's actually a popular incumbent.
She is a popular incumbent. Just a bit of a personal anecdote. Let's go back from Taichung and go back to, of course, the big piece of pie. I'm going to be calling that all night, Andrew. As we said, we heard a concession speech, and the numbers are really going to back up what Chen Shizong did on stage earlier. Jiang Wan-an still in the lead, 319,000 votes. Chen Shizong, 241,000, and Vivian Huang, 188,000 votes. That's the latest for you on Taipei City.
All righty. So we have been introducing all three of these Taipei City candidates tonight. We're going to move on to the third one, who is the presumptive mayor-elect for Taipei. This is the KMT candidate, Jiang Wan-an, who will become the youngest mayor to run Taipei by just a couple of months. The only person that was, I think, close to him was Chen Shui-bian, and that was probably 20 years ago. But we're going to go now to an introduction of Jiang Wan-an. Our reporter, Rick Glauert, has been following his campaign on the campaign trail, and he is at the Jiang Wan-an headquarters. Let's have a look at this.
There's an optimistic mood here at the Jiang Wan-an camp. The Silicon Valley lawyer turned politician for Taiwan's main opposition party, the Kuomintang or KMT, has been considered the frontrunner for the hard-fought Taipei mayor race. If he wins, he'll be one of the capital's youngest mayors in history.
I think he's a doer, and also he's young. He's only 43. I believe he will be here for some time.
因为我觉得台北市需要一个像蒋万安这样的一个市长来为我们做更多的争取跟服务。我相信他，所以我今天来这边支持他。
Zhang has promised to reinvigorate the capital using his experience abroad. Policies like urban regeneration and making housing more affordable for young people have struck a chord with voters. Taking the keys to City Hall would be a big deal for the young politician. The mayorship is often seen as a step to the presidency. It would also be a boost to his party, which has struggled with low popularity in recent years. But it's his background. Zhang Wan'an's great-grandfather ran Taiwan as a dictatorship that has made this election bid controversial. As I reported on the campaign trail, it's a legacy that Zhang Wan'an has had to shoulder. Taipei mayoral candidate Zhang Wan'an warms up for the political challenge of his life so far. And for much of the race, Zhang has been the front-runner. Voters in Taiwan's capital tend to back his political party, the main opposition Kuomintang or KMT. But they're also drawn to Zhang's young age, he's just 43, his education and work experience overseas, and his promises to re-energize the capital with things like housing subsidies for young people.
我要发展国际的台北，生活的台北，创新的台北，科技的台北。
But Zhang's controversial background could hold him back. Zhang Wan'an is the great-grandson of Chiang Kai-shek, who was leader of the nationalist forces in China that retreated to Taiwan in 1949 after losing the civil war with the Communist Party of China. This statue memorializes Chiang Kai-shek, a man fundamental to Taiwan's history, but who ruled the country as a dictatorship and oversaw violent political oppression. The leader, who is revered by some but condemned by others, is part of a complicated legacy that Taiwan is still grappling with. Zhang Wan'an's campaign does not stress his connections to Chiang Kai-shek, but the candidate has mentioned his grandfather, Chiang Kai-shek's successor Jiang Jingguo, who also ruled with a heavy hand, but is often associated with Taiwan's fast-paced economic development of the 1970s and 80s. And on the streets of Taipei, Zhang and his family legacy divides opinion.
最近可能也渐渐历史没有人再去太注意了，所以好像没有人会再去注意这一方面的事情了。
毕竟你之前做了那些事情，又不是，然后我们现在又那么民主，又不是那么被大家认同这样子，对，一定会多多少少会有影响。
Zhang winning the keys to City Hall, often seen as a step toward the presidency, would be a big boost to his party, the Kuomintang. Support for the China-friendly party is slumping as young Taiwanese are increasingly wary of getting too close to the belligerent neighbour next door. The KMT may not have held Zhang back in this race, but the party's stance on China could spell a potential political dead end.
If he wants to talk about the next step, especially the position of president of Taiwan, I don't think that he has any chance to get to that level. After all, the city of Taipei is only about urban politics. It's not so much about ideology politics.
Zhang's youth and his vision for a fresh Taipei helped him pull ahead in this crucial political contest. But his family's past and how it weighs on the country may determine his political future. Patrick Chen and Liao for TaiwanPlus.
All right, we're going to go now to Betty Chen, who is sitting with our analysts in the reaction room for a closer look at the KMT's presumptive mayor-elect Zhang Wan'an. Betty.
Thank you, Andrew. Moving on to Zhang Wan'an, the mayor-elect of Taipei City. Has the family name Jiang helped or hurt him? Why or why not? Professor Huang.
I think it cut both ways, depending on the voting blocks. Because Zhang Wan'an Wenchang was criticized by the senior citizens or people like above the 65 years old in certain district. They were the stronghold, or we call the dark blue area of the Taipei city. They criticized Wenchang for not closely associate himself with his grandfather and great-grandfather because they considered that if he tried to disassociate that, then they won't vote for him. And Wen got that kind of signal. But on the other hand, there are people also in Taipei City that worries or dislike, any linkage or bloodline that carry from the past. They want to do it away. So I said it cut both ways, but at this time there are other factors that contribute to his victory. It's not necessarily his family tradition or heritage.
So we know that in the election back in 2018, the KMT did quite well in the local elections. But in 2020, the presidential election, the DPP won the presidency. So now it's time, 2022. KMT seems to be doing quite well in the local elections. Do you think that this will mean the same pattern will repeat in 2024? What will happen? President Lai, what do you think?
Well, I do not think that the year 2018, the pendulum effect in year 2020 will automatically repeat itself in this election, because it really goes down to who in the DPP they will push forward as a candidate, and who the KMT will push for it. So basically, I think the candidates matters. Who will represent the KMT, and the KMT right now definitely is in a higher tide. So that they are riding the momentum, trying to crash the DPP in year 2024. But right now, when we look at the DPP and the KMT, DPP seems to be like the Vice President William Lai could be the front runner. There could be also some other people that who are getting more favor from the President Tsai Ing-wen. And for the KMT, the current KMT chairman Zhu Lilun, and also to a certain extent, the other KMT, probably lighter candidates, also vying for the presidency, such as right now the new Xinbei City Mayor, Hou You-yi. Those two has been mentioned as a possible candidates. So the issue about the analyzing will go to who versus who, and who from the KMT and who from DPP will be. And then we can talk about their position toward China and other international issues that will be very important for Taiwan's international standings.
Candidates do matter. Now back to Jiang Wan. And since the Han Kuo-yu wave in 2020, the KMT has a hard time appealing to younger voters. So do you think that Jiang will emerge and also fill the gap, positioning himself as a rising star in the KMT?
I mean, based on the poll that we look at during this local election, especially in Taipei, actually Vivian Huang attract more young voters than Wayne Chang. So you know, younger age may not be a guarantee for the support of young voters. I think from this election, you know, it looks like that the quality of governance, personality, integrity, that will be the baseline. But efficiency, because Taipei is losing population, Taipei is not competitive compared to other Asian cities. So I think it's a big challenge for the new mayor.
Indeed, there are big challenges ahead of Mayor of Taipei. What would be the biggest challenge for the Mayor of Taipei, President Lai?
I think Jiang Wan has to face the many messy issues left over by the Ko-Wen-je during the 8 years, in my view, very chaotic governance.
Right.
And so a lot of people expect that he needs to deliver something, and he delivered it quick. If Jiang Wan wasn't able to deliver something in the next year, at least one or two of them, they could spell trouble for his continued governorship of the Taipei City Mayor. Another thing about it is that Jiang Wan seems to resemble a lighter version of Ma Ying-jeou during the early days. But Jiang Wan is also considered not to be as conservative as Ma Ying-jeou. So that casts Jiang Wan both ways, as just mentioned by Professor Huang, that the older age and the darker blue faction, they do not like Jiang Wan in this way. But the younger generation within KMT definitely is in favor of Jiang Wan and tended to support him through this. So that Jiang Wan in this basically will be sandwiched between the older guard of the KMT, who are mostly very conservative and represented by Ma Ying-jeou, the former president of Taiwan, and also the younger person and younger factions, who in a way try to reform the KMT, but met a very strong resistance from the KMT himself. And finally, I would say that as a city mayor of the Taipei, that you are going to meet a lot of international issues, and in which your personal standing on this issue, you cannot just escape by not taking a position. One example is the so-called Twin City Forum between Taipei and Shanghai, in which that the Ko-Wen-je position in that become a very big friction point between the city and the government.
That's a very good point, President Lai. I think we will talk more about the international relations and also how that linked to local politics. Now, back to you, Andrew.
Don't go away. When we come back in just a moment, we're going to bring you some results from Taoyuan City, which is home to Taiwan's main international airport. Also, is there room for a third major political party in Taiwan? That and more when we return. This is Decision 2022. I'm Andrew Ryan coming to you from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. Now we are moving on to Taoyuan City, which is in northern Taiwan. This is the home of Taiwan's largest international airport, and we're going to go straight to Leslie Liao, who has some results for us.
That's right. Now, Andrew, earlier in the show, I talked about pie. I talked about steaks. I got a donut pun in there lined up. But here's a food pun that writes itself, because Taoyuan City quite literally means peach field. All right? It quite literally means peach field. I don't have to do anything. But let's take a look at Taoyuan City, which is a hotly contested city. It's an up-and-coming place. In first place is for the KMT, Simon Zhang. Now, we'll know him as a former premier of Taiwan. We'll also know him as the running mate of the Kuomintang presidential candidate in the last presidential race. Han Kuo-yu, yeah. And then in second place, you have Chen Yunpeng with 170,889 votes. And then you have a TPP contender from the Taiwan People's Party, which we're going to talk about a little bit. Her name is Ms. Lai Xiangling. She's a little bit more behind with 21,000 votes.
And actually, just to let you know, the local media are also giving us numbers on these candidates, which look very similar to this. But again, larger numbers, same kind of percentages or ratio that we have here.
That's right. Just a little bit more of an update. Simon Zhang is breaching, according to the Central Election Commission, he's breaching 250,000 votes. So he's ahead of Chen Yunpeng by just about 50,000. Lai Xiangling has yet to still kind of breach 100,000. But let's take a look really quickly, because Taoyuan City before this was a DPP city. Their mayor was Zheng Wen-chan.
Very popular mayor for 2 terms.
Yeah, absolutely. But it looks like it's about to flip blue. And let's take a look at this really quickly. Let's go back in time. 2014, all right? These are the 9-1 elections in 2014. A lot of green. A lot of green. A little bit blue, and a little bit more of the independent. We have an independent, the candidate that won in Hualien, and then you also have Taipei, which went independent because that's incumbent Ko Wen's winning his first term. Now, he would have been teal, but he had yet to found his political party, which is the Taiwan People's Party, the third biggest party.
And actually, the second time he ran in 2018, as you can see there, it's gray again, because at that point, he still hadn't founded his party. It wouldn't have been until a little bit later that he founded the Taiwan People's Party.
That's right, but let's look at here really quickly, Andrew. 2018. Huge blue wave, right? There's a lot of blue on this map. A lot of cities and seats got overturned. But if you look at Taoyuan, it was still green.
Yes.
And now it looks like it's going to switch over to blue. Let's take a look at the results so far and how they show up on our map right now.
Okay.
If I can just get this thing to work really quickly. Just take a look at this. Lot more blue. So it's not like in 2014 where we saw a green wave and then a blue wave, and if trends persisted, you might think, hey, it might go green again, just to kind of flip-flop back and forth. Doesn't seem like that's the case this time around. It looks like the blue trend is persisting. However, there is a new color on the map, which is right here in Hsinchu City. If I can just... Right here in Hsinchu City, and that is the teal color we were talking about, had Ko Wen's run under a TPP ticket in 2014 and 2018. Now, his party is fielding a candidate out there in Hsinchu City, and Gao, who's pretty popular.
Gao Hong'an.
And she is in the lead right now, and this is going to be, if trends persist, TPP will see its first major win in a mayoral election.
But we should mention that the other 2 candidates that are affiliated with the TPP, one in Taipei City, who's an independent, not likely to be elected, and then again, we just saw there in Taoyuan, the other candidate not likely to be elected as well. Now, we want to tell you a little bit about the TPP, the Taiwan People's Party. Traditionally, Taiwan has been ruled by the Kuomintang and the DPP, the Democratic Progressive Party, the blue and the green parties. The question is there a possibility for a third party? The Taiwan People's Party is currently the one of the country's newest parties, and it has also become the third largest. Do they have a shot at getting more seats in the future? Stash Butler has more.
Blue, green, or somewhere in between. The Taiwan People's Party, or TPP, is the country's third force. It's a new party founded just 3 years ago by Taipei Mayor Ke Wen-je. And it says it's above the bitter binary divide between Taiwan's ruling party, the pan-green DPP, and the main opposition, the pan-blue Kuomintang.
So I think it's a light blue or light green. I'd rather use another term, light whatever.
But what does the Taiwan People's Party stand for? Political scientist Lev Nachman says parties in Taiwan usually define themselves by their policy on China.
This is what makes Taiwan fundamentally different from most democracies, is because Taiwan is contested. Our fundamental political issue here is not typical left-right issues. It's who are we, where are we, and what's our relationship with China going to be in the future, and what's the direction of Taiwan going to be in the future.
Taiwan's ruling DPP says Taiwan is already independent under its official name, the Republic of China. It says the country should protect its autonomy by being less reliant on China for trade. The opposition Kuomintang, meanwhile, agrees that the ROC is a sovereign state, but it's much more open to ties with Beijing. China, for its part, sees Taiwan as a breakaway province. It wants the two sides of the Taiwan Strait to unite, peacefully if possible, but if necessary, by force. And Nachman says it's unrealistic for the Taiwan People's Party and its chair Ke Wen-je to stay out of that debate.
It appears that his desire to position himself as kind of above the cross-strait issue isn't really above the cross-strait issue, it's definitely on the spectrum somewhere.
So what does the Taiwan People's Party want? Senior official Leonard Zhao says the party plans to defend Taiwan's sovereignty while still talking to Beijing.
Dialogue instead of decoupling, cooperation instead of some confrontation. But confrontation, I think, serves no people.
True to that stress on dialogue, People's Party chair Ke Wen-je has kept an open channel with Shanghai during his time as Taipei mayor. But now his 2 terms are up, Ke is considering a run for president. If he wins in 2024, it would put his approach to the test. Ke is confident he can talk to Shanghai, but can he talk to Beijing?
Given how the PRC has reacted to not just cross-strait relations, but to Taiwan-US and China-US relations, the odds of there being a meaningful dialogue between Taiwan and the PRC in the short term, I don't think is likely.
The Taiwan People's Party is a new voice in Taiwan's politics. It says it's found a third way through the China debate to build a free, autonomous Taiwan thriving from strong cross-strait ties. But to do that, it'll need to convince Taiwanese voters it's ready to govern and fix broken ties with Beijing. Andy Xue, Karma Xu, and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
And now we're going to go straight to our map there. Leslie, new results.
Andrew, speak of the devil, we were just talking about the TPP. We were just talking about Gao Hong'an in Hsinchu City, and I just got word that she declared herself the winner in that election. So we are looking at possibly, or quite probably, the new Hsinchu City mayor.
All right, the presumptive Hsinchu mayor. We're going to go straight to Betty Chen, who is now sitting by with our analysts in the reaction room. Betty.
So now more questions for our experts. Has the KMT presented a clear China policy? Because some people say that the 1992 consensus no longer has a market. What do you make of that, Professor Huang?
92 consensus had been a term that highly debated, overused. But for KMT now, it's very clear that 92 consensus has its function to stabilize the relations with Beijing. We see that as a guardrail for the peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. So given its function still usable and possible for us, as long as we want to maintain such a peace and stability, we want to keep that term but with our own interpretation. 92 consensus for us is just like a one China policy of the United States, which is different from Beijing's one China policy, one China principle.
So we do have room for our interpretation.
Yes.
Now moving on to the next question. President Tsai's theme for the 2020 election campaign is Resist China, Protect Taiwan, meaning to be aligned with the US and other democracies to defend Taiwan. So do you foresee any change in the US-Taiwan relations after this local election, President Lai?
Local election is for the local election's sake, so it's not about national policy. And I do not think that the Taiwan-US relationship is still under the President Tsai will experience any change. The issue about this election basically is about who probably will get what in the political composition later on. So that what's the impact to the KMT? Will Jiang Wan started to become a new star in the future? Who will take the lead for the DPP to challenge the year 2024 presidential election? And the TPP right now has a mayor in Hsinchu. How would that bring to the TPP in a political development later on? So those are the issues that related with the local election. But it is not about Taiwan-China relationship. That becomes the focus in these policy debates.
So a very quick follow-up question. Do you think that Taiwan may likely become a multi-party country?
Well,
Yes
it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard because Hsinchu is small, Gao Hong'an is young, and Mayor Ke would probably try very hard to keep his own profile even without mayorship.
What do you think, President Lai?
Well, I will say that the TPP itself probably won't be able to get as a viable third parties, but we do see there's a potential for the third party to be able to emerge because for whatever we saw in a Taipei City mayor election and also in Hsinchu as well as in some other places, that there are some people who are dissatisfied with the current KMT DPP compositions. They want something new. And right now they are looking for a TPP or other party, but those forces will not just die down with the TPP going to the history.
So definitely we will keep watching the development, right? Thank you very much. Now back to you, Andrew.
There's much more ahead on Decision 2022. We're going to take a look at Taiwanese election culture. Plus, we're going to tell you all about the attempt to lower the voting age in Taiwan from 20 to 18. All that and more. Stay with us. This is Decision 2022. I'm Andrew Ryan coming to you from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. We're going to go straight to Leslie Liao, who's going to tell us a little bit about the referendum to lower the voting age from 20 to 18.
That's
How's
right,
that doing?
Andrew. That's exactly what it is. We're voting to whether or not we want to lower Taiwan's voting age from 20 to 18. So we're not just voting for people in this round of elections. We're voting on policy changes that the public might want. Now, I got the latest referendum numbers for you right here. Take a look, okay? So we need 9.262 million votes needed in order to pass, for this referendum to pass. Right now, there's about 4 million votes for yes and 3.7 million votes for no. It's pretty neck and neck right now.
That looks like about 8 million votes have been cast total, or actually counted total.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's going to pass. That looks like it is probably... Yeah, in a little bit of danger there, I think.
Little bit. But then again, it is election night, and that's one of the things I love about election night. You never know what's going to happen. You really never know what's going to happen. So, I didn't vote. I didn't come back to Taiwan until after I was 20, so I didn't really feel one
like
way
you
or the
needed
other
the right
about
to
this.
vote. Yeah.
But at the same time, I believed 18. Sure, why not? More people get to vote. Democracy, that's what democracy is about, right, people?
Well, for more on this very topic, we're going to go to our reporter, Rick Lauert, who has the details.
Taiwan's president addresses a crowd of young people. A photo of her at 18 flashes on screen. With that photo, President Taiwan is making a point, throwing her political weight behind the campaign to change Taiwan's constitution and lower the voting age to 18.
In Taiwan, 18-year-olds can get married, they can stand trial as an adult, and they can even be called up to serve in the military. But the country's constitution says they must be 20 before they can vote for public representatives. It's one of just a handful of countries around the world with such a high voting age.
In a nation often divided on political issues, lowering the voting age has rare broad support from politicians across different parties. But the public is undecided.
确实他们跟以前比能接触到的东西更多了，那有新的改变，台湾才会改变。
不重要，就是我觉得慢慢长大，就是你会比较有自己的想法。我觉得20岁差不多吧，18岁可能还有一点青涩。
It's a numbers game to reach the threshold for the referendum to pass. Constitutional amendments by referendum require 50% of the electorate to vote in favour of the change. That means 9.65 million voters need to approve it. None of the last 4 referendums passed in Taiwan, due to a low voter turnout. And ultimately, whether Taiwan's youngest adults can have a greater political voice is down to the support of their elders, who already have full voting rights. Andy Xue and Rick Liao for TaiwanPlus.
All right, for more on that, we're now going to go to our reaction room where Betty Chen is standing by with some new panelists. Betty.
Yes, here we are in the reaction room. We have 2 new guests joining us here. Please allow me to introduce Ambassador William Stanton, Chair Professor of the International College of Innovation of National Zhengzhi University, former Director of the American Institute in Taiwan, and former Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Australia. Also joining us, we have Professor Judy Wei, Assistant Professor of the Department of Political Science, Chinese Culture University. She also obtained her PhD in Political Science from the University of South Carolina. So my first question will be directed to Ambassador Stanton. So the U.S. midterm elections is usually seen as a referendum on the ruling party. Is this also the case in the Taiwan elections, and what similarities do you see?
Well, it was a big surprise in the United States in our midterm elections that the Democrats did as well as they did, won the Senate even by a small margin, and they were not defeated in the House of Representatives. So I think from what I've seen of the polling thus far, it looks like it's a good night for the KMT. So that was sort of the prediction. If you compare the KMT, the Republican Party, people were predicting that's the way it would go in the United States, but it did not. But I don't know it necessarily is going to be predictive of the future. For one thing, before the next presidential election, we'll have to see how the current winners in these municipal elections, how they perform and how well they're liked, and who are the candidates for the presidency.
True. So now my question is directed to Professor Wei. We know that Taiwan has gained greater international visibility with more countries supporting Taiwan as China increases its aggression. And also Taiwan is extremely important because we produce a lot of semiconductors and chips. So to what extent has Taiwan's international status improved? Professor Wei.
Yeah, I think that most people, yeah, according to the cross-strait relationship, and then that most people know more people know more about the Taiwan, especially about that maybe such as the U.S. and some Germany. They care about that the semiconductor industry is vital for their manufacturing factories such as the car. So they are concerned about the cross-strait relationship. Once there is the war between Taiwan and China, then their manufacturing industry may be influenced. So I think that the cross-strait relationship may be affect the superpower conflict in the future. I think so.
Thank you very much, Professor Wei. And now back to you, Ambassador Stanton. Many people look at the local elections thinking that they can be a good indicator for the presidential election. Do you think that's also the case here in Taiwan?
No, I don't. Well, it certainly indicates right now that there's maybe a growing dissatisfaction with the Minjindang. But you can never tell. I mean, 2 years is a long time. We'll have to see which candidates are selected, which candidates run, and whether they draw popular support or not.
Yeah, probably it's too early to tell because now we're still getting the results. So I would give the floor back to Andrew.
There's much more to come on Decision 2022. When we come back in just a moment, we're going to announce 3 more results. Stay with us. This is Decision 2022, and we are bringing you election results from the local elections here in Taiwan. I want to bring you now to the southern city of Tainan. Now, this city is the smallest of the 6 special municipalities. It's a historic capital city. It's also a very green or DPP-leaning city. We're going to go to Leslie for some results.
That's right, Andrew. Let's take a look at Tainan City really quickly. And we have an incumbent race because incumbent Huang Weize, and as you said, it's a DPP-leaning city, and Huang Weize has been the DPP mayor down there for 4 years now, and he's looking for re-election. His challenger is from the Kuomintang, is Xie Longjie, who's a Tainan city councillor. This race, closer than you would think for Tainan, definitely. Yes. 417,000 for Huang Weize, 372,000 for Xie Longjie. It's usually not that close in Tainan. It really isn't.
Can we call it?
I think we can call it. And I think Huang Weize himself has called it. So he's looking at a second term in office as Tainan mayor. There's actually a saying down there, it's just Tainan is just very, very green. Like there's no way to cut it, right? It's either he's, and this is no surprise. Is this a surprise to you at all?
Not a surprise to me at all. I think, in fact, there has never been a Kuomintang mayor since people started directly electing mayors of Tainan. You have more results. Yeah?
I got more results for you. Let's go back up to Taichung, all right? Central City, second biggest in Taiwan by population. Lu Xiuyi, and also another incumbent looking for re-election. She has successfully, she announced her own victory, and she successfully got herself re-elected for a second term. Fun fact, actually, since becoming a special municipality in 2010, Taichung has only seen 1-term mayors. So she's kind of made history right here because she is now she's got a second term, and she's the first 2-term mayor in Taichung.
Since it became a special municipality.
Since it became a special municipality in 2010.
You've got a third result there too, yeah?
One more right here. Simon Zhang in Taoyuan City. He has pulled it off. Former premier of Taiwan and former vice presidential candidate. He is now in Taoyuan. He announced that he is the winner, and he is now the mayor of Taoyuan, mayor-elect. And quick question, Andrew. Do you know when these guys are going to, when these new mayors are going to come into office?
They're going to take office on Christmas Day. So this is a Christmas present for all of these presumptive mayors-elect. Now, this year's elections in Taiwan are local in nature, but even so, China is weighing heavily on some voters' minds. And there are not many places in Taiwan that are closer to China than the outlying islands of Mazu. In fact, they're just kilometers away. Now, a winner has already been declared there. The Kuomintang, or KMT's Wang Zhongming, beat out a rival from the KMT and a candidate from the ruling DPP. Our reporter Louise Watt visited the islands in the run-up to the elections, and here's what she found.
11月26号县长选举，拜托大家支持，恳请大家支持1号李问一票，支持大黄鱼战队。
Wearing the fish balloon is County Chief candidate Li Wen. That's a croaker fish, the symbol of his campaign. And here in the Matsu Islands, it's a local delicacy known for croaking loudly. Li says he wants to help make the people's voices louder too. With just 13,000 residents, Lianjiang County is Taiwan's smallest constituency. It's better known as the Matsu Islands, which lie just off the coast of China. Li is not like other candidates in Matsu. He used to be a journalist in Taipei. Even more unusual, he's running for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, the party of President Tsai Ing-wen. The KMT is so well established in Matsu, not just one, but two KMT candidates are standing against Li, including Wang Zhongming, who has been the deputy county chief for 6 years. His campaign promise is to continue improving Matsu's transport links and infrastructure.
我发觉国民党所提出来的候选人所提出来的政见比较落实，比较务实。为什么呢？他是在地人，他了解马祖人民的需要，跟台湾人民的需要是不相同的。
The other KMT candidate for county chief is Cao Er-yuan. He works for the county government for 40 years on things like tourism, construction and strategy. He's not just canvassing for votes, he's collecting signatures to reopen ferry and flight routes between Matsu and China. Those stopped running during the pandemic. Cao says they're good for Matsu's economy, for the peaceful development of China-Taiwan relations, and for residents who want to visit their relatives in China.
民进党的参与，我是非常非常支持的，是好的。这一项呢，不管这场选举，因为他参选我输了，或者因为他参选我赢了，或者是都不影响，我觉得都是正面的。
Li is pledging to provide more affordable housing and more job opportunities. He says inter-party competition can bring more accountability and transparency to local politics. But he says it's about more than that, given how close Matsu is to China.
It shows that democracy can thrive even at the doorstep of a very assertive and strong, aggressive, authoritarian country.
The islands of Matsu, far from Taipei, often feel forgotten in Taiwan's national politics. But this year, Li is hoping the DPP can make a splash. Win or lose, he's already captured the nation's attention simply by offering Matsu's residents another choice. And candidates from both sides of the political spectrum agree that can only be good for Taiwan's democracy. Damon Lin and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Okay, we're going to go straight to the campaign headquarters of Jiang Wan'an, who is the presumptive mayor-elect of Taipei City, and he is speaking now. Let's have a listen.
台北的发展，台北的故事，也顺着河流的动脉来持续温暖往前迈进。
So Jiang is saying, he's saying this is a victory not just for himself, but a victory for everyone in Taipei. He says voters are using their votes to allow democracy to win over black box politics. He's thanked both of his opponents and says everyone needs to work together. He thanks all of the voters, including those who didn't vote for him. Says he's going to work to make a government for all. Remember, you know, probably 60% of the people did not vote for him because it was a three-horse race.
Fair to say, and it was very tight too as well. If you look at the numbers for his opponents, Chen Shizong and Huang Sansan, they all kept up with him to a certain degree, and I think that's one way to look at this, right? It's like you said, 60% of the votes did not vote for him, but this is just how through politics go. But yep. I think with that, we can safely announce that Jiang Wan'an is the new Taipei mayor. He's the youngest in history, and he resigned from being a legislator to run for Taipei mayor, which I guess in this case paid off for him.
That's right. He served for one term, and then he stepped down after, I think, the first couple of years of his second term to run for Taipei City Mayor, and it did pay off. Now, for more on this, and also for more on whether China has affected voters in this election, we now go to Betty Chen, who is in the reaction room for some insight from our panelist. Betty.
Thank you, Andrew. We just heard the victory speech by Jiang Wan'an. We know that he was educated in the United States. So in terms of promoting city-to-city diplomacy, what should the local governments do to deepen our ties with maybe cities in the world? Ambassador Stanton.
Well, certainly it would be very helpful early on if he would make a return visit to the United States. In the United States, mayors don't play that large a role in foreign policy, nor do state governors really, but sometimes their policies will affect the overall relationship. So one of the things I would hope to see, particularly since so many Kuomintang candidates seem to be winning, is that they would take a very open attitude to having a good relationship with the United States and be supportive of policies that move in that direction.
Certainly, people-to-people interaction plays a very important role. So my next question is for Professor Wei. We just saw the clip of the introduction of the situation in Mazu. So DPP finally established its first campaign headquarters in Mazu with a candidate running there. So what impact does the DPP have in terms of the local power structure? Professor Wei.
I think it's good for DPP to establish on the local, the headquarters in Mazu in 2020. I think because that although it's very difficult for the still right now, although it's still very difficult for them to win any seat, such as the magistrate or even maybe the local council. But I think that it's important to develop the parties, the local party strengths in Mazu. Yeah, I think it's a good start.
Exactly. So my next question is for Ambassador Stanton. So the KMT has a stronghold in Mazu, and we know that sometimes in order for Taiwan to connect with the world, the semiconductor industry plays a very important part. Morris Chang announced that he will have the 3-nanometer chips to be produced in the United States. How will that impact the U.S.-Taiwan relations?
Well, I think it's going to strengthen the relationship with the United States. I think the U.S., as other countries, are very heavily dependent on TSMC and particularly their microchips. So I think, the U.S. was delighted that happened. I think it's a positive step forward. Actually, I think Taiwan needs to use that superiority in microchips to try to improve its relations with countries elsewhere.
Very well said, and we can talk about it more later. Now, back to you, Andrew.
All right, we're going to move on now to Hsinchu City, which is not one of the top 6 municipalities, special municipalities in Taiwan, but it is a place where a woman has been elected. It's up here. Let's go to Leslie for more.
I can show you right here on my map right here. It's actually pretty easy to spot. It's the teal right here. And like we said, it's where the Taiwan People's Party, the largest third party in Taiwan, has landed its first major victory because Gao Hong'an was elected there. She announced her victory. And you know what? I realized we haven't given people a good look at the numbers and just see what kind of margin she's won by. She was actually up against Shen Huihong, who is also of the DPP. And Shen Huihong was back there. If you look at these numbers, actually, they're quite small compared to some of the big municipalities. Hsinchu City, population about 450,000.
But a very important place because this is the location of Taiwan's high-tech sector. This is Taiwan's Silicon Valley, so it's a very important place for Taiwan.
So let's take a look at these numbers. Shen Huihong, her count as of now from the CEC is 57,000. The DPP challenge, the KMT challenger, Lin Genren, he was a Hsinchu City councillor, and of course we had the victor Gao Hong'an right here with she's actually has a pretty substantial lead, I would say. So that's why she was comfortable enough announcing
her victory. All right, this year a record number of women ran for office in Taiwan. Right now, before the results were announced, 7 of the 22 top cities and counties in the country were run by women, and the number of women running this year, 24. That's at least 1 woman in every race. And it looks like we may actually beat the number of 7 that we had for city mayors and county chiefs for the top 22 cities and counties in Taiwan. Now, there's also a political party that's run by Taiwanese mothers who are looking to highlight the concerns of everyday families. Yu Jing Huang has more.
A child should have ears but no mouth. That's a common saying in Taiwan that suggests children should obey adults, no matter what. But this mother-turned-politician wants children to speak up. Zhang Shuhui is running for new Taipei City Council. She's representing the Taiwan Obasang Political Equality Party, which she co-founded in 2019. Obasang is a Japanese loanword that means older woman.
我觉得并没有以儿童人权为最主要关切的政党。不同的背景，弱势者，尤其像小孩，他根本连选票都没有啊。那跟他有关的政策，要靠谁来反映？他就是弱势中的弱势了。
90% of the party's 104 members are women. In addition to promoting child-friendly policies, they also tackle issues like gender and equality. The party advocates greater recognition and support for non-traditional families.
那我们要怎么正常化的看待这些不同的家庭，包括了新移民或者是单亲，然后或者是同志家庭，它都是家庭的一个部分。那每一种家庭的形态，它都很完整。好，那学校的教育是不是准备好了这一块？其实我很关注。
But Taiwan's political system works against small political parties. In order to get government subsidies, a party has to win more than 3% of the vote during legislative elections. In the past decade, about 90% of subsidies went to the country's two biggest parties, the Democratic Progressive Party and the Kuomintang. That means candidates from small parties have to maximize their resources. The Obasang Party saves labor costs by making things by hand. Their office, truck, and even stage are all sponsored by donations. It's almost impossible for small parties to compete at the national level. But in local elections for city and county councilor seats, they still have a fighting chance.
我们是复数选区，所以复数选区的话，还是让小党有一定的生存空间。所以我们看到每一次的复数选区的县市议员啊、乡镇市民代表选举的话，都会有很多小党踊跃的参选，因为它有当选的可能，也能够展现一定的所谓的多元声音。
The Obasang Party hopes it can appeal to women who feel let down by Taiwan's current politics, like this voter.
那当时因为我本身是一个医生，那我是辞职顾小孩。那我看到很多现在的政策，我会觉得有一个很遗憾的地方，是我发现我们这个政策的背后是要求一个父母，你必须永远得在工作跟家庭、在育儿跟事业之间做一个2选1。那我看到这些主会带领的这些妈妈啊、小孩，他浩浩荡荡出来参选的时候，其实那时候我非常震撼，就是我知道原来我们不用2选1。
Many of the Obasang candidates ran in Taiwan's last local elections in 2018 as independents. Even without party backing, they managed to get more than 3% of the vote. The party says this shows there's a market in Taiwan for their ideas. And elected or not, they've already made their voice heard. As women, as mothers, and as citizens in a democratic society. Howard Zhang, Patrick Chen, Andy Shea, and Yu Jing Huang for TaiwanPlus.
All right, we're going to go straight to our reaction room where Betty Chen is standing by with our panelists. Betty.
Thank you, Andrew. We do see the vast number of women joining politics in this local elections. Do you think there should be more women running as mayors or even future leaders? What do you make of that, Professor Wei?
I think I can talk about women in politics from two perspectives. One is from the electoral system. In Taiwan, in the local election, the multi-member district, I think facilitate women's representation because the regulation say that at least 1/4 of the they should be elected. And also, I think about the political culture, from the perspective of political culture, I think that the KMT or even DPP or other Taiwan People's Party, they all know that the gender equality is an important issue. So they were trying to nominate a women candidate, and from the perspective that women can know that voters know that. Women can take care of maybe pay much attention to the child care policy, so that can promote their party image. Good. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Professor Wei. So now speaking of women's empowerment, we know that in this year's midterm elections and also in the United States, we also see the rise of women in politics. So Ambassador Stanton, what do you make of women in politics? Any suggestions? Do you think there should be more women joining politics?
Absolutely. As a father of 2 daughters, I'm very excited to see more women entering political races. And in Taiwan, of course, it's been a great success. I think whether you agree with all of her policies or not, I think President Tsai Ing-wen has carried herself with dignity and thoughtfulness. I'm a big fan of Shelby Kim, who's the representative of Taiwan in the United States. And I remember when I was at AIT, I used to meet periodically with the mayor of Kaohsiung, Jeonju, and she was quite impressive as well. And of course, a very brave woman during the hard times. Served went to prison and so forth. So yeah, I think we should encourage women, and I think often they bring something that men don't have to their, based on their own feelings and experiences. They have a whole different side to them that men lack.
Exactly. So a quick question. Do you think women are better leaders? Yes or no? Or depends?
It depends, but in general, yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now back to you, Andrew.
We're going to go straight to a commercial. There's much more to come when Decision 2022 continues. This is Decision 2022, and we've been with you for nearly 2 hours, coming to you live from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. We're going to go now to New Taipei City. Now, New Taipei City is the largest city in Taiwan in terms of population, and as you can see, it's the donut around Taipei City. This is a blue-leaning city, and we're going to go to Leslie with some results there.
You beat me to that donut pun. All night I had these food things lined up, and I was just like, the donut was the one it was be my big punchline. So let's just go right into the results right here. So we have the incumbent Hou You-yi, and as you can see, he polls pretty well. People are pretty satisfied with him in the satisfaction polls, actually. And as you said, New Taipei City is most populous city in all of Taiwan. So that's why we're seeing this staggering number of 1 million votes, almost 1.1 million votes. His challenger is Lin Jialong. Now, Lin Jialong is from the DPP. He's a former transportation minister. He's a former Taichung city mayor, and he's an ambassador at large. This has been an uphill battle for him. We know that. Just look at the numbers as well. Anyway, that's what we have from New Taipei City. I think at this point, we can see how the trend goes.
Safe to say that he has definitely won this election. We're actually going to go through our 6 special municipalities. We have 5 remaining after we've introduced New Taipei City. What do you have next for us?
Let's see what's up next, all right? Let's start up top with Taipei City. This is the crown jewel, like I said. Remember, stepping stone to the presidency. You never know that 3 out of 4. Right. So what happens is we have Jiang Wan'an, who won with 500,000 votes, as according to the CEC, and then you also have Chen Sizong from the DPP. He was in second place with 400,000 votes. Then you have Vivian Huang with 319,000 votes.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off. We're going to go straight to a live feed from New Taipei City, where the incumbent Hou You-yi from the Kuomintang, the KMT, is now speaking. Let's have a listen to him speak.
陪着我一路走过来的所有的竞选伙伴团队，更要谢谢陪我在民主的竞争历程上跟我一起走过的林佳龙先生。在稍早，我们两个有通过电话。其实我跟他 都是认识的朋友，我们彼此之间聊了一下，互相祝福，也互相分享。
So he's talking about his competitor in this race, the DPP candidate Lin Jialong, and about their competition.
It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, he said they stole his phone earlier. And he said that Lin Jialong wished him well and congratulated him on winning. So it sounds like not just a victory speech, but there was also a concession from Lin Jialong as well.
最重要是你在过程里面展现一个民主的态度。
So he's saying the most important thing is that this is a demonstration of democracy here in Taiwan. Another democratic election that has been held successfully across the nation in the local elections.
谢谢你们在29个区都给侯友宜满满的支持的力量。
Thank you for everybody across the 29 districts of New Taipei City for supporting me as your mayor.
That's a lot of districts.
It is a lot of districts.
是我们的国家。
Okay, so again, this is an acceptance speech or a victory speech for the new, I guess it's the incumbent mayor of New Taipei City, Hou You-yi from the Kuomintang or KMT. And now we're going to actually continue going through our other 6 special municipalities and our results.
So we have Taoyuan as well. Simon Chang won that one of their former premier. His challenger, Zheng Yunpeng from the DPP, 300,000. And you have Lai Xiangling, who is a TPP candidate.
All right, we're running short on time, so we're going to go straight to Betty, who is standing by in our reaction room. Betty.
Thank you, Andrew. The KMT seems to be doing quite well in this local election. So what does it tell us about the 2024 presidential election?
Well, these elections are clearly going to make Beijing very happy, I would assume, because they've been so opposed to the Taiwan administration, our idea of resist China, promote democracy. But I don't know that international politics, to what extent that was a factor in these races. But China has been so fearsome of late, so aggressive, that it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people fear the safest course is the safety net is to have blue candidates in those seats. So in that sense, it might be a bit of an indicator of what may come in 24. We'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Professor Wei?
I think it depends. As we know that in the local election in 2018, KMT won a lot, did a good job but they lost the presidential election in 2020. So I think there is a pendulum effect there. So maybe it's still difficult to say that if KMT will do a good job in 2024 presidential election, maybe it still depends on which presidential candidate run for the presidency, which one they dominated.
True, we still need to see which candidate can represent which party, and then that's going to be something interesting. So we will definitely keep an eye on that. Back to you, Andrew.
All right, we're coming near the end of our broadcast, our live 2-hour broadcast, Decision 2022. We've been coming to you from the TaiwanPlus Election Center in downtown Taipei. Leslie, what was your biggest surprise tonight, or the most interesting thing you saw?
The most interesting thing, of course, Andrew, with any votes is just democracy, man, being part of it. And it's, in and of itself, it's almost like a holiday. You know, there's an anticipation coming up to the elections. And then, I don't know if you were in the newsroom earlier, but everybody was crowded around the TV wall we had just looking at each of these different results as they came in. And it feels like maybe it's the beginning of change. Maybe it's just, it's a pivotal time, right? So you don't know, and that's what I love about election night.
And actually, just looking at that map there, you can see already some change happening here in Taiwan. A lot more blue counties and cities on our map there. Just southern Taiwan and Penghu look like they're going to be green tonight. One blue, I guess teal colored county. I think for me, the most interesting thing of this election is the number of women who have come out and joined in the campaign this year. We had a historic number of 24 women vying for the 22 largest cities and counties in Taiwan. Before we went into the elections, 7 of those cities and counties were run by women, and it looks like we're going to be up to 8 by the time the vote is counted, possibly even 9. So it's a big night for women here in Taiwan. And you know, this is really, it's a young democracy, so it's great to see this in action. Do you know the first time that people ran for or were able to vote for city mayor and county chief in Taiwan?
I don't.
If my facts are correct, it's the early 90s. So we're coming up on 30 years of democracy here in Taiwan, direct democratic elections. But again, I want to thank you, Leslie, for joining me.
Thank you for carrying me through the show, Andrew.
And thank you to all of our team here at TaiwanPlus for joining us. And thank you for joining us online on YouTube on our live feed. And also a special thank you to joining us, to those of you who are joining us on our brand new 24-hour channel, TaiwanPlus, which launched only in early October. But again, on behalf of everyone here at TaiwanPlus, I'm Andrew Ryan. Thanks for joining us and have a great night.